one big reason why it happens at high level, because only the top of the company is stable, everything else changes. In India, the turnover rate, Tenshoku, people keep leaving jobs very quickly. The turnaround of people in the companies is very fast. So the only person who is permanent in the company is the CEO. So he has to make all the decisions. Only he thinks long term, no one else thinks long term.
Is this the same for the fast-growing new company and also traditional companies?
Very few exceptions, like Tata, for example. Even in Tata's case, Ratan Tata has been making all the major decisions as an individual. Tata Nano, the Tata Motors Tata Nano project, is pretty much his own brainchild. He personally drove that project, and many other projects also is driven by even him personally. But still, Tata is relatively on the more of organized side, not so much of individualistic. But Reliance, for example, and many other companies in India, even the big ones, they are very individualistic in nature. So this is very individualistic. Individuals, the owners or CEOs of the company, they decide. In India's case, even the large companies are like this. And most of the large companies in India are now new. Even Reliance is not so old, right? Reliance is huge, but it's not very old company. In Japan's case, Japan, like recently when IBM was celebrating 100 years, and on TV there was so much of fuss about it, oh, IBM has become 100 years old. People in Japan were laughing. What, only 100 years? In Japan's case, like I was, on that occasion I was checking up on the internet about old companies in the world. There are many companies in Japan which are more than 500 years old, 800 years old. The companies in Kyoto, many companies like these gumis, these construction companies, many, they are generally called gumi, Nantoka gumi.
Yeah.
They are like 800 years old, 500 years old.
Yeah, Kongo Gumi has 1,000 of years.
1,000 of years.
It's history.
So they are very, and it's a big company, is it? What's the name?
Yeah, Kongo Gumi, yeah, it's the immigrants from Korea started at 7,000 or something.
I see. I see. In India, anyway, most companies are very new, large companies. So this is how it goes, and the decision is made very early on by the CEO itself. Essentially, the CEO decides about who will be our partner, what will be the direction. And after that, the planning starts. And actually, it's not so much of planning. We get into the execution without much of a plan. And then we try different scenarios. Because anyway, nothing is for sure in India's case. You are planning this today, but maybe the regulation will change tomorrow, or maybe the partner will change his business model, or maybe the supplier will go bankrupt. Anything can happen. It's a very dynamic country. So you can't be, in Japan's case, the execution here is a very simple step because all the work planning is done already and things go according to that. But in India's case, there is not much point to plan because anyway, things will change. So you try scenarios and you go do it more dynamically. But when Japanese companies are working with India, they have to have this approach. If they try the same approach, and that's what's happening now, Japanese companies try to do all of this. And when they are trying to do all of this, the Indian company gets frustrated. They say that, hey, are you really serious? Do you really want to do business? You are asking for all these small details. You don't even have them. And what use will that details be? Let us know you want to do business or not. That's where the CEO is involved. And he wants to deal with the Japanese CEO and he wants to make a decision fast and move on. And this is more of an entrepreneurial model anyway. As an entrepreneur, you don't do all this. You jump into the opportunity and then you try with your vision, with your concept. So this is more of an entrepreneurial model. An Indian economy is more entrepreneurial by nature. And when Japan is doing business in India, this is the model that's needed. Because you are doing business in India. But when Indian companies come to Japan, they should do it like this. So this is also a lesson for Indian companies. When they are doing business in Japan, they should realize that all the planning will be helpful to make an optimal decision in Japan. Because Japan goes according to the plan.
Sir, okay, please.
Yes, Samaj.
Oh, yes. The aged Japanese businessman, I understand this one. But I have a question. So, strategic change, 3 layers.
Yes.
This I really do not understand. How they once something policy is made by top down,
Yes.
bottom up and
Yes.
and top down.
Yes.
How you can change the scenario or the policies in 3 layers?
This is, yes. Essentially, it's like trial and
execution starts.
yes.
Right?
Execution starts.
Starts.
Yes.
After that, you change.
You change. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Yes. Like even the case of Tata Nano, it's a great example. They were completely ready to set up their factory in West Bengal. But then the local political issues in the West Bengal, and they took this whole large project of Tata Nano to Gujarat, and they did it within 15-20 days apparently. You can't think of that in Japan. So in India, because it's about, if you are very lucky, maybe the first strategy will work. But generally you need more, what do you call, trial and, test and trial. Iterations, yes.
You said trial and failure?
No, what was I'm missing that phrase. Hit and try. Hit and try, yeah.
Because as you mentioned, the stigma of the failure is
Yes.
one thing, very big things in Japan.
Yes.
Failure is not
Yes.
allowed.
Yes. That's why your decision is very careful decision.
Mhm.
In India, you decide early, and this is essentially a failure. Part failure. So you are changing your strategy because this strategy did not work, and it's so common in India. But you remain ready for it, and you don't invest so much time in one strategy. You have put only some effort in this strategy. So even if it fails, it's okay. You try the next one. You are ready for it.
And the strategy change includes cancellation or giving up that plot. Because after due diligence, you may find that that project is not workable.
Yes, very common. Yeah, people are ready to move. People are ready to change. There's so much ready to change that you don't know what will really happen. So it's, it's not a very planned environment. Very dynamic environment.
One Japanese company want to build a business deal with India. Then what your suggestions? Making partnership is better or go individual is better? Which one is better? Suppose Tata I have Akamon partnership.
Yes.
I thought that's not a very successful business deal. What about if Akamon go individual selling mobiles or in India? How it works? Which is better way?
Yes. Shall I do one thing? I think that's a very good question. So just to, maybe I will combine that question with a few others.
Okay.
So about the going by alone or as a partner.
Yeah, with partner.
Yes, please.
I got 2 questions. I'll start with the easy one. When you distributing these slides, if you can, otherwise I won't focus on writing these materials in my computer and focus more on listening. So can you distribute these slides after the presentation?
Can do that, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Second question is, we have covered so far 11 slides, 12 slides, and on the 11th slide you discuss the advantages of being foreigners as entrepreneurs in Japan, and most of us here are foreigners. But I was expecting, like, though there are advantages, but there are almost double or more disadvantages as well. Perhaps that's the reason we don't see that many foreigner entrepreneurs in Japan. So can you please discuss the disadvantages of being a foreigner in Japan, and what measures can we take to minimize the effect of that disadvantage?
Okay. Yes. Definitely, yeah.
I used to work for JICA as an expert, working in Middle East, in North Africa.
You are with JICA right now?
No, before.
I see, I see,
Ex-Japanese one.
I see.
So I'm following up ODA program, particularly in India.
I see. I know that's huge. India is receiving the largest amount of ODA from Japan. Yes.
Before India, China used to be the top receiver. And this ODA, in a certain sense, has been very successful because many Japanese companies now moved to China. Okay, in case of India, we still need more Japanese companies or India and Japan business collaboration must be promoted.
Yes.
I don't know why. Both countries, I think they still have lots of homework to do. Both Japanese and India have to learn each other. Not many people, particularly Japanese, have been visiting India or living in India. Very few Japanese. I think this should be promoted more, and we should make the use of make the best use of ODA program.
Yes.
Right now, ODA, according to the demand for India, we spend lots of money on infrastructure like railway or power station. I think some money, some percentage of money should be spent to promote more business collaborations. What do you think? We should change this kind of
So let me, thank you so much. Let me answer these three questions for now, especially the first one about the partnership and about ODA. I think they are a bit related. I have a little slide here. Sorry, it's not here. Okay, infrastructure is a big area where the Japanese ODA is being channelized into India quite a bit. There is this large project, Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, DMIC, where it's an ODA supported project, and on that project there is a condition for the Japanese ODA to be provided to a project that the main bidder has to be a Japanese company. And right now we are in the middle of many requests for partnership from Indian companies to partner with a Japanese company so that they can bid for the ODA. I'm sure you must be very familiar with this kind of arrangement, that for a foreign company to take ODA, they have to partner with a Japanese company. Right now, I think JICA is focusing on that. So this project in India, DMIC. Now, this is a usual problem, as I mentioned, about the partnership model. That's coming in the way because Indian companies want a quick decision and Japanese companies want to do thorough analysis and then make a decision. And in that process, the partnerships are not working. So in that sense, while the culture is so different, it may sometimes be a good idea to go alone. And instead of depending on the partners, what you can do is you can instead have vendors. See the difference between partner and a vendor. A partner is when you decide jointly. But in the case of vendor, you provide the finance or you provide the money and you buy the services. For example, even if you need some physical infrastructure, you need a building or you need some construction. So you, rather than partnering with a construction company in India, you provide them the finance, you essentially buy their services.